Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Ita Tayson Gandala. Mrs. Ita, how are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ita. And also, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are the founder of Reignite Collective. Can you please, Mrs. Ita, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Ita?
Yes, so I'm happy to discuss my own story, which is founded in divorce. I 2 weeks before my youngest son left for college, my husband asked me for a divorce. I worked in public diplomacy for about 20 years, so I had my career and I thought I had my family. I was very devastated that I would go through this period in my life. And I actually found that my survival skills really led me to thrive through the period. And I had a glow up, if you will, where I lost about 90 pounds. I regained my financial wellness and I thrived in my career. And my life's purpose is to help women find their life's purpose and to discover this part of them that allows them to reconnect and reignite their passion, their independence, and embrace it rather than really suffer and feel like their life is over.
Sometimes it feels so emotional when situations happens at times. Sometimes we do not prepare for some certain situation, and that is why it really hurts badly. And when we're in a position whereby we do not know our tomorrow, we do not know what will happen the next day, the next week, and to have something that really struck the heart, how can we try our best to actually manage it with wisdom and also try our best to control ourselves more responsibly so it won't cause so much damage? Just as you've done, Mrs. Ita, despite the divorce, you have something you did not really expect. You still
Yes.
decided to do something and actually came back stronger despite the unexpected decision. So many listeners make decisions from stress. Because of the stress they have, they really react out of it. And most of it, they really react out of anger, they react out of
Yeah.
emotions, and those things are out of the stress or even out of fear without even realizing it's because of that. That is why they're making such type of decision. How do you think mindfulness from the experience you've had can help someone slow down enough to make choices rooted in clarity instead of panic, Mrs. Ita?
Absolutely. It's a great question, and it's so important for anybody going through a difficult transition. Anybody. And even if you've had trauma in your past somewhere, or you are living in fear, I sort of discovered I was literally living in fear and making decisions from that place. And mindfulness impacted my life in a positive area. And when I went through my divorce coaching certification through the Center for Divorce Coaching, I realized why. And that is because I was out of touch with my nervous system. So, mindfulness can literally help us get to know our nervous system. When we make emotional, fear based decisions, we are making fear-based decisions that are short term. We often have the feeling of, I just want to get this off my plate, just stop. Like, I just want to stop it. We can't logically process facts. We're not in a safe space. So when we reconnect with our ventral state or our prefrontal frontal cortex, we can lodge our logic comes back, right? So we can logically process facts and see things that impact us far into the future. And we re engage that part of our brain that we can then make sound decisions that have everybody's best interest in at heart rather than getting the decision over with.
Sincerely appreciate. It shows that mindfulness is really, really key when we want to try our best to give the sense of calmness despite the stress that we have. When we are calm enough and we make decisive action, we have to be very, very mindful of the decisions we make. We have to try our best to sit down to process it and also make sure that we are not actually using those things that are coming around to actually trigger the same decision that we want to make. And that is why I would like to drive to the point of body signals. Because despite how we are down, or how we are stressed, or how we are living out of fear, there will always be signs in our body when such situation comes around. So, how
Oh,
do you
yeah.
think the body signal when we are about to make this kind of reactive decision? And how do you think listeners can also try their best in the little way they have to recognize those signs very early, Sis Ita?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our bodies speak to us, but we often don't listen. We're just not listening. We're too busy. We're focused on the future, focused on the past. So we're not in touch with a few things. Our nervous system and our intuition. So we ignore what our intuition tells us, that gut feeling. Something feels, to put it in very simple terms, heavy or light. If something feels really, really, really heavy, and you have that overwhelm feeling, your mind and your body are telling you you're in a place of fear. And if you make a decision in that place, you're not connected to your rational mind. So it really has an impact on, like I said, your future. Another thing is somatic physical symptoms. Your breath may be shorter, you feel tension, your neck may hurt, your back may hurt. Something is, your body is speaking to you. And taking a step back, just awareness drives change. So taking a step back, looking inward for 1 second can make, that little habit can make the biggest change in your life. Start with that. But listen, just listen. We often get on our phones and put on music and start watching shows, and we don't want to listen, right? Because change is hard. But this will lead you to a place of peace that is waiting for you in your future. It will.
I totally agree because when we are in a position whereby we can be very, very sensitive to the position, we understand our body because understanding our body better will make us understand the sign when we are actually feeling some kind of discomfort. There will always be the sense of discomfort when we are trying to make some certain type of decisions that will not favor us. We do always know. Sometimes we are always aware that these decisions won't favor us, but the body will always give us the sign. Sometimes we could feel very easily stressed. Sometimes we could feel some kinds of discomfort within the body. Sometimes we just feel down. They are just little, little things. We just have to know the kind of one that actually comes around for us because we are all different beings. We have different bodies, we have different perspectives. So we can understand our body better and know, I think this thing is telling me this. I think I am actually feeling the sense of uncomfortability in this type of perspective. Then we can use that to understand how we can bring in the sense of meditation or also trying our best to make sure that we are actually making the best decisions for us. And that is why I would like to drive to the point of meditation practices, things that can help us to heal, things that can help us to improve, things that can help us to actually build the sense of mindfulness, to make us have the sense of calmness, so we can have a higher chance to make better decisions. And some listeners can be in a position whereby they are like, where is the time to meditate? I do not have the time. We are in a very busy world. What should
Right.
I do? What should I do with the
Mm-hmm.
meditation? But in your own perspective and the experience you had, Mrs. Ita, would you just like to share, if you have any, about micro practices that just usually take about less than a minute, but really makes a very huge difference, Mrs. Ita?
That's a wonderful question, and I'm so glad you asked that, in part because I personally have, even before my divorce, had struggled with anxiety, and anxiety will keep your mind going. So the thought of meditation, even the word, would put me into a heightened state of fear. Like, it's too much, it's too much, I can't do it. So I would just get busier and busier, right? So a lot of people do this, and I see this with my clients. So micro practices are absolutely the way to go. First, stopping to realize what your thought patterns, stopping for 1 second. Are you thinking about the present? 99% of the time you are not. You're thinking about the future or the past, and you're not in the present. So 3 conscious breaths before you send an email, or taking a step back, putting your hand on your heart and your other hand on your belly, for example. One deep breath. Literally reconnecting with the present is how you start. That's the journey to meditation. Someday you'll get to meditation. I understand what that's like. It's too overwhelming. So before you do a 20-minute meditation, which I still can't do, by the way, that's a lot for me. I'm working up to it. So I can empathize with listeners. Start with 1 second. What are you thinking about? Awareness drives change. If you're like, yeah, that person on that podcast was like, I am thinking about what I'm going to do. Most likely, worrying and fear and worry mean that you're using what I learned in my coaching program is, from the CDC, is considered the reptilian part of your brain. So, reconnecting to your nervous system, the value of 1 second is, I can't capture into words how much it's brought me peace in my life.
How beautiful it is. We do know it is not easy, but when we start little, we see how very, very tremendous change we have within ourselves. To be honest with you, 1 second can turn to two, three, four, but that 1 second, we see the deep relief we have within us. As you
Yes,
said, just like talking at our chest and our tummy, giving a sense of serious breath work, those tensions calms down. Those little, little things, when we spend 1 second, 2 seconds to do it, by the time we do not know when we start to do it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and it really
right,
helps the nervous system to actually come back to its balance. Because most of the time, our body will always give us this kind of uncomfortability. That's how the body is being programmed. So while we are going out, we're coming in, we're doing a lot of activities, we'll always feel that type of imbalance at times. But when we work on our mindfulness and we work on our breath work, it gives the nervous system to come back into balance and also give us the sense, put us in the position to think more straight and to think more, especially in the right perspective, for us to move forward in life, so that we will make some certain decisions that will not be in our own favor. And also, I would just like to dive to people which that emotions are always intense. Some people emotions are always intense to the point that thoughts become just more louder than even them themselves.
Right.
So when someone emotions are very intense, their thoughts just becomes louder, as I've said earlier. How do you think mindfulness? I know you discussed more on mindfulness, but how do you think that's mindfulness? How do you think it helps them to separate emotions from truth and choose more wisely, Mrs. Eater?
Yes. Um, I will go back to connecting with your nervous system and reconnecting with your intuition. When you have all those thoughts and emotions, first of all, you're allowed to have those. That's that's something that your body is telling you. It Mindfulness will reconnect you with what your body is trying to tell you. You won't know all the answers, but your nervous system, if you are in your safe place, mindfulness brings you there. Mindfulness is not always the same as meditation. Mindfulness, walk away for 1 second, take a deep breath. It centers you and it helps you make decisions that are in your best interest. And in any difficult transition or any great transition, like I said, if it feels heavy, it's probably from a place of fear. But I also understand, as I shared, someone who struggles with anxiety, how much you want it to be over. Just stop. So you just want to make a decision. So you just say, oh, fine. Um, that decision is not being made with your logical brain. So it's reconnecting you with your prefrontal cortex, which is actually something that's in your best interest, your family's best interest, the world's best interest when you make decisions that are logical to you.
I sincerely appreciate that insight. When we make decisions regarding our own perspective, that regarding the angle of ourselves, with the sense of mindfulness and being more wise enough, it really helps us in a very huge way. At times, we usually know that we are not making the right decisions, and we usually do that actually anyway, but it doesn't help in a very, very long time. When we try our best to sit down and give ourselves the sense of balance with our body, stress really, really take us to the position whereby we are not always comfortable with the decisions. We just take the decisions. And sometimes we know it isn't right. But when we are able to be mindfulness enough and give ourselves the sense of breath work that can actually help us enough, meditation is also one of the best key. It really helps us because at the end of the day, the answer is always right at the front of us. No matter the person we go meet, no
It
matter
is.
how we want to go everywhere, we'll always find the answer right at the front of us because we are all
Exactly.
different human beings. We are all different. We have our own perspective. Our backgrounds are different. The way that we are being treated are different. And we are still the one that knows the answer despite the situation we find ourselves. And that is why meditation is very powerful. Consider, process our thoughts, give ourselves some breath work, and be always mindful on any decisions we have. We will be wise enough to make some very, very certain decisions. It might not be easy to do it at first, but with time, it's groom and groom and groom, and we will now be strong enough to actually deal with situations with more patience and with more confidence as well. And I also just like to dive for people or for listeners who could feel stuck currently or really overwhelmed, or they are gotten to a certain stage whereby they are really, really disconnected from themselves. Really, really disconnected. They're not even themselves anymore. What do you think is also one of the grounding ritual that you think they can try to begin today to just start for them to start making a steadier and more empowered decisions, Mrs. Eater?
Yes, that's a great question. I love that. And for your listeners,
Yes.
the simple practice that was transformational for me is box breathing. So if you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. It's a signal to your nervous system that you are safe. It reconnects with your nervous system. And then also a grounding, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding ritual. If you're feeling really disconnected, really stuck, to help you focus and embrace and your journey back to the present, just look around, sit down, make yourself sit down. Your mind's going to keep on going. Don't worry about it. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And this is actually from a practice called Yoga Nidra, where you are sort of grounding yourself in the present. And it takes less than 60 seconds, and it can really get you back your mind. It's a pattern interrupt too, where your mind is going and going and going. We all know what that's like. It wakes us up in the middle of the night and wakes us up at 5 in the morning. So that ritual is really, really helpful.
And I appreciate the insight regarding the ritual. When we are doing all these kind of practices, as you said earlier, it helps the brain, it helps the body, and it gives a very, very deep relaxation for us to be able to be patient enough to project ourselves, think more wisely, and make more wise decisions despite the
Hmm.
distraction. Because the world we are currently is really, really a very distracted world. Despite the distraction we have around us, we are able to be focused enough to actually face situations and actually choose and also make decisions more wisely. I sincerely appreciate the big insights regarding this perspective because it is not easy to have some kind of emotional turmoil on an unexpected time. It is very, very painful. And for us to try our best to be in a position to sit down and look for ways we can actually deal with the situation with more wisdom is also tough, and it takes a lot of time. I am not we are not telling anyone it's going to be easy. It takes time. But with the time, we are going to see improvement despite the time we're actually using to develop this kind of mindset. And also, Mrs. Ita, there is also a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefather times that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Ita, what do you think that thing would be, Ita?
Yeah, I love this question. My father was adopted from immigrants from Ireland, and they had a practice of storytelling. And I also was very close to my grandfather, who was a World War II veteran, and his stories were magical to me as a child. So that human connection, it's not officially sort of a tradition, but I didn't grow up. I'm Gen Z, so I didn't grow up with a cell phone or having that distraction. So I really appreciate the human to human connection. Um, so that's something I miss.
I really love what you said earlier. Despite your parents who are more of Christians and the one that is adopted in Ireland, that shows a very deep and beautiful stories that really helps the emotions as well. Those things are what we have actually missed. Telling stories, making a sense of visible and also physical connection. These things really help even us as well as humans because that is why we are being programmed. We are being programmed to have physical, have some kind of connections that really help us in a very large way. And that is why we do have a lot of people who are more of this anxiety. And that is why we are also creating this sense of channel to make people understand better how they can actually work on themselves despite the challenges and despite the stress they have in life or despite the turmoil, because sometimes we have some kind of pain we have in life. How we can also deal with it with more wisdom and also choose wisely. Mrs. Ita, I also want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time, the opportunity you've given to me today. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ita.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it's an honor to meet you and to connect with your listeners.
Yes,
And I look forward to staying connected in the future.
exactly. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Ita. Bye bye.
Bye.